Hello, and welcome to Winning Strategy Tips for Using Social Media, how to create a successful strategy. And within it, we're going to talk about 3 big mistakes and how to get past all of them, as well as a myriad of things that you can do to make your social media more effective. Hello, I'm Nicolette Lemon, president of Lemon Tree Marketing Group and founder of CreditUnionMarketingUniversity.com. And giving me a lot of input was also Dennis Kepke, Vice President of Lemon Tree. Well, let's start with what I call a really good quote for today's world, if you will. The idea that stop looking at your business as physical, web, and mobile. It's about consumers, and the only thing that matters to consumers is the one screen that is in front of them, what devices they are addicted to. Isn't that incredible? By author Mitch Joel in his Control-Alt-Delete book. I saw this several years ago, actually, and I just thought, that is the whole encapsulation of what we're trying to do to market to people, to get people to hear our message, to understand more about why they should do business with your credit union. And you think of it, it's where they're going to see it, and it all has to marry together in the best way. Well, one of the things is social media, of course. With social media, it's interesting to see that, how many adults use at least one social media site in America, and it is about 75%, maybe a little bit more. So when you think of that, we're all using at least one thing. There are some people who only use Facebook. There are some people who only use, they use Twitter to get the news. There are young people using a myriad of Snapchat, Instagram, maybe Facebook, maybe Twitter, but they're using a myriad. So there's some that use a lot. Pinterest is another really big one right now that's caught on as another great social media way to search for things and keep things and remind yourself of things. So you've got the active ones and you've got the reminder ones. I mean, oh my goodness, you've got so many, and you don't really know necessarily where your members are, where they're hanging out, right? Well, I kind of like this idea also about millennials, and we talk a lot about them because they are the biggest core group generation going through time right now. The boomers, they're still huge as a generation, but with the aging component, they are really your money, your deposits, and not so much your lending opportunities as they're aging. And the youngest of them are in their 50s and getting into late 50s, so they're not going to be doing as much actively for revenue producing for you, but the millennials are. And so that's why everybody's so concerned. It's not just the millennials. It's really the generation that is starting to marry, have kids, get some traction in their careers. So with all of that, I like this. It says, many millennials, like myself, don't consider their bank the center of their financial world. In fact, the son of my financial universe is a third-party advisor, Mr. Dave Ramsey. I've read his books. I follow him on social media, and I even listen to his syndicated radio show. Simply put, he's my go-to guy for all things money, not my bank. That, to me, is very compelling. And the reason I say it is because young people today, unlike Gen X and the boomers, we didn't have as much access immediately to information. And you're sitting at dinner and somebody says, well, I can't remember what year it was, and another person at the table is zipping onto Google to find out what year it was for your, to tell you what it was because they can, or someone's name, or some event, or something happening. It's, to me, really immediate information, right? So when you think of millennials or young people, they have so much access to information that unless you have really good, compelling content, they're not coming to you either. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about, is helping you to create some more value to all that you do, to make sure that you are building that community of members and not just a bunch of numbers with loans attached or with checking accounts attached or whatever, because sooner or later that's going to be diminished as they get older also. And we have to have a plan in place to be able to have that content to grab people, to get them to really bond with your organization and your brand, to then have, their generations beyond them so that your organization will survive and thrive. Let's get started with first the 3 social media mistakes and ways to avoid them. Then we're going to talk about the keys to choosing your social media channels, your time, talent, and budget, or some people call time, talent, and treasure. And then the final piece is I'm going to talk about creating a social media success strategy using your credit union brand story. So we have 3 story types and the consistency and promotion of all of it to be able to be more successful today. So as we start, let's talk about the 3 social media pitfalls that are found very often with organizations today. The first one we're going to talk about is a lack of interesting content. What can you tell me? What storytelling are you doing for me? The second is a lack of video. I have found that to be a real issue today because video it continues to grow. It's funny how people are also trying to get off of cable and everything else, but they will watch YouTube and they will watch Netflix and they want to see things. They want to be entertained or to get information or to learn how to do something. They want it to be a video. They don't necessarily want to read it. There's some people that still want to read. That's fine. But video is really key, and I have found a lot of credit unions not even utilizing video because it does take time, talent, and treasure, which we'll talk about as well. And then the lack of voice. Who is behind your content? Who's actually the person that is the face of your social media? Because social media is personal, and I find very often that organizations want to do it as, their credit union name and their brand, but everybody knows there's someone writing it. So they want to know who's the author, who is writing this, who is that voice behind the credit union's social media. So let's first jump into the lack of interesting content. What can you tell me? People want to know how to do things, why they should do things, what's important about using your credit union over anyone else. What is it about you that I need to know, or about my money that you can help me with, right? Well, the whole idea is that content is fire and social media is the gasoline. And you say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, if you have good content and you put it out on social media and it is of value to people that you have intended to inform, educate, whatever, it will be shared. It goes. It's wonderful. You can use memes, just simple little quotations with cool photos to get it out there. You can use teeny weeny little GIFs, which are, some little action going on to grab attention, or you can use videos. What is it that you're putting out there? And how is it going to catch fire? When looking at a lot of credit union websites or looking at their social media sites, when you consider how people are sharing it, how many are following, I find it really intriguing that, and if you look on the YouTube, if credit unions are doing videos, you can see how shares happen, and then they get a bunch of shares and then and views, and then it'll fall off and fall back down to like 30. And what is that? Well, the value of the content is key, and the promotion of that content is key to let people know that it's there. But I do find there are some key things about it. First, it does have to be short. Isn't that crazy? Of course, you think, well, you really want to put a lot into something, and whenever we have done recorded seminars, for example, on maybe, how to read your credit report or whatever, I have always broken it into small segments, less than 2 minutes. And I do that because if I'm going to put it up on a website and someone's going to watch, their commitment is less than 2 minutes. It's 30 seconds to a minute. And if I catch them and I keep them and they know it's only a couple minutes, I may keep them to the full 2. But the idea is that it's got to be short. I mean, if you think about it, I found this, statistic, 20% of Gen Xers prefer reading content that has more than 500 words, and more than 50% of baby boomers will prefer content less than 300, and the other less than 200. I mean, it's all these like, what? Well, Gen Xers are in, still the gathering stage. The boomers are in the older stage. I'm not quite as interested in, building my world as much as Gen Xers are. They're still got the kids in the college and all that. But the boomers are, tell me something quick. I thought that was so intriguing. But it's even just more important to you to consider how short and succinct you can make something to get a hook. If you want to lead them to your website for a longer blog post, or you want to have a video that is longer than 2 minutes, I really like having something super short to catch the attention and then move to the longer if they're interested, so that they're not feeling totally committed and abandoning because you did it too long. Here are a couple of things that I found about Pinterest, and I have found Pinterest to be a really interesting phenomenon right now for people to share. And sitting on the senior management team of one of my clients, when I brought it up, I was so shocked that three of the COO, the CFO, and the CIO all had said they were on Pinterest. And I'm like, what for? Because I always thought of it as a dominant female thing to do, because we like to clip things and go back to things and, all that. Well, they were doing it. One was, really interested in barbecue, so he was clipping all kinds of barbecue recipes and things like that. Another one was traveler, so he was clipping things of where he would like to go traveling, and on and on. I was stunned. Senior executives wanting to be on Pinterest for it. Well, now, when I say this for credit union land, the idea here is, what are the ways that you can use a simple meme, like the one with the Friday the 13th idea and the cat eyes, or can you do a list? Can you do a list of something? So I love these two. One was from, and I just found them randomly. One Vision Credit Union had the fun, on Friday the 13th, avoid those bank fees like black cats. Join a credit union, write meow. I love that. That was very cute. And the other one that I liked in Forum Credit Union was planning for baby. There were a bunch of ideas, and then you could go to their website and delve more into it. And, of course, to me, these all should be able to be clickable back to your website with more information. So how would you then say, after, join a credit union now, here's how you join One Vision and blah, 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 and put it all out there. And, to me, that then gives you the opportunity to pitch who you are and to get them to sign up right there online if they are interested because they found you engaging. I love those ideas. Now, one of the things that I just want to mention about that I like the best is I really do like the idea of tall and thin, almost like a bookmark, where you can have a list of things that don't have a lot of meat to them, but they have a cool list. And it could be, like the one before, planning for a baby, planning for a wedding, buying a new house, or buying your first house, or all of these things can be something that the little graphic can be saved to Pinterest, and then also is clickable then over to your website with more information in how to utilize your credit union services to maximize their money or whatever. The idea, too, is that this then is shared, with a group of people that follow someone who has saved it, and it has a life of its own. It will stay live. It can be also promoted. You might find it promoted by Pinterest to, when you're online, they'll say, here's some that are like the one that you saved, and all of a sudden yours can travel through a lot of other people. Now, I realize that there is the issue of the membership, how they can actually join and all, but the idea is hopefully they will be seen by more of the people that are, whoever saved it, that's in your membership, and goes from there. The other thing about it is Facebook posts, they go. I mean, they're there a day, they're gone, and people usually don't go back ever. So they just kind of, zoom through feeds. Same thing with Twitter. And with YouTube, that's a whole different commitment, if you will, that you'll know that something is available and you will click through to watch something. So the idea with Pinterest is that it stays there forever and is more shareable, and it's categorized. So if someone did, planning for baby, and they had a board that was, my firstborn or whatever, all of a sudden that is saved in there. Somebody else having a baby may also pick that same thing up. You do have a lot of value with having it be there and categorized. Isn't that cool? So Pinterest is a really interesting one to look at now if you have good content that you would like to bring them to, or fun content, but you have to follow it up on your website. It cannot just be a one-off and you hope that they will come to your website generally. It has to come to a landing page where you can then give more information. All right, let's move on. Let's say I lack a video. Can you show me? How much video do you have for your credit union and its services and member testimonials and things like that? How are you actually showing the value of your brand in short videos? And I think it's really telling when you look at that right now a majority of Americans use Facebook and YouTube. And YouTube is actually higher than Facebook. And again, if you look down also how much Pinterest has grown above Snapchat, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So think again, too, that Pinterest is on the rise. Instagram is still a real favorite as well, but YouTube is at the top. Well, if Facebook and YouTube are important in, being visible, I still think it's worth having things in your promotions and information and all on Facebook if you can get members to join because you have good content. I also feel you've got to have those short videos that they can watch, and in essence, they get a chance to be involved with your credit union, to see inside what's so good about your credit union and your brand. So if that's the case, well, then we have to think about why video? What is it? I found this information. I thought this really sums it up. Video content earns 12 times more shares than text and images combined. 12 times more shares. Wow. So if you have really good information and it's succinct and short but really good tips on, whatever it is, finance, planning for baby, planning for a wedding, planning for the new house, any of those, they're more likely to be shared. Since viewers retain 95% of a message when they see it in a video and retain only 10% when they see it in text, marketers and brands should seriously consider adding video content to their social media strategy. I love that idea because it's so true. People like to see it and get involved with it and almost being entertained. I have to say it is, a form of entertainment, so we do want that. But the idea is that it's also very shareable. And you can do the same thing, even with Pinterest. You could have a video attached that when they click through, it is a video. So, that to me is still interesting. Same thing with Facebook and all. Well, here's some tips for you then. So focus on short, focused content on a YouTube channel under 2 minutes. Be creative with your storytelling and use a spokesperson or talent that matches the market you're trying to entertain or attract. So, for example, this was part of a video that we were doing about a video teller machine that was in a branch to get members to understand how they can just walk up, but they will actually be talking to someone at the credit union, which is actually in the call center behind. Well, we used a younger person because we felt like young people are much more interested in accepting new technology. So using that, we can get you in and out of the credit union fast. If you need to come in, you need to get something, you'll get in and out fast, but you still are talking to a person. Got it? So short, to the point, but the idea is you're also, being a little bit more connected to your market when you're trying to engage them in a new technology, how-tos. I think that there is a huge benefit in having how-tos, short ones, on YouTube for how to use your debit card, how to use your credit card, all those things for young people from 16 to 21, because that's what they engage with. But the problem is there are not a lot of opportunities for them to engage back with the credit union unless they go back into the branch or have to call and talk to someone and try to figure it out. Most often it's resetting a password. They have to go in the credit union. They really don't want to. I mean, there's a lot of things that I have found having a millennial myself that they don't want to engage like that. If they can do it, through a YouTube video and understand stuff, or they can do it quick through text and all those, they like that better. but I don't see a lot of outreach with credit unions, particularly that of how-tos, and I think that's an important idea. Now, with that in mind, I'll show you one now that I thought this was interesting. Bank of America sent this in an email promoting videos from their Merrill Lynch division. And it was, I thought, very compelling because it says, watch and learn from the Merrill Lynch Answers webcast series, Your Financial Guide to College Planning. Now, there's two pieces of that. There is one as a young person being able to watch it and understand, and there's the parents that are going to be paying for it and what that means to them. So strategies to help cover the cost of higher education. It really kind of was a double dip. The idea is, I like also $1.3 million, the potential additional lifetime earnings of someone with a college degree versus a high school graduate. So they're really giving you, well, I want to know what that means. So if I get one, and what does it mean to have to fund it? So I really like that, but they emailed it. This was an email to, promote going to their webcast series, which you can utilize, and I'm sure they have, all kinds of different social media to also grab not only their Bank of America customers and Merrill Lynch customers, but also other people that are interested in trying to fund a college education. Let's talk about lack of voice and why I feel that's important. Who's behind the content? And very often, you have to use what you've got, right? So very often I find that credit unions use employees to do the social media. But there are staff limitations. Time, if they're doing multiple responsibilities, not just social media. Or if they're a young person, they're not necessarily going to be able to write as effectively for older generations. But you kind of have to determine what do you have to work with. There is also using college students as interns. Unfortunately, sometimes these are just brief stints where you have them for, the 3 months of that, college course for the independent study and internship, and then off they go. Some people hire their interns as well, which is great. But the problem there, again, is, this can be a revolving door. And if your voice changes all the time, then the people watching it can either get turned off or they stop following because it doesn't sound like it was before, whatever. Just remembering that the switching of voices can also confuse people in social media. And then you can use contests to find spokespersons, but means that they may not understand your organization as well if they are from the outside and they are going to be a spokesperson for a while. And you can train them, but if they don't know your organization well, then you have to have someone watching over what they do say to make sure that it's consistent with your brand story and all. I did like this from Michigan First on the right side. They have had, this type of thing where they have put out for their Young and Free program, and they call it a spokester, and they have had, several, as you can see, go through as their voice of young people at or for Michigan First. So there are ways to do it. But again, that also takes a lot of time and energy to make sure that someone's watching over that team, that group, who they are, and to understanding if they're making the right impact or not. So one of the things that, when you say the changing spokesperson, it's really a fun way to be able to put it out there that you're looking for someone so it doesn't necessarily mean it is an employee. And a lot of people do like that because they like the idea it's someone like them. So a young person, the voice of your generation is how they pitch it at Michigan First, and I'm sure the other Young and Free programs that other credit unions have. The idea is then, she was using a lot of Instagram to promote and to write blog posts as well to engage young people, young members at Michigan First, and hopefully to get them to tell their friends and bring more into the credit union. So it's a fun way to do it, but you do have to really make sure that you are following through in terms of the voice. So that was an example for young people. Here's another one. I like this one that is really becoming more popular, and it's finding influencers in your membership, finding people who are, and they call them micro-influencers, And it's making sure that someone who likes your brand will then promote you in social media and all, and they become an extension of your brand voice, and they can also either, be provided with some kind of in branding of clothing and things that they're doing now with young people. They're offering that if you have a code, and you can get 20% off any purchase if you put in the Amanda code, and Amanda 20. If you put in that, you'll get a 20% discount on anything you buy. So Amanda has an opportunity to promote that out to her followers. Interesting, huh? And now, how can you do that with a credit union? You're not going to be able to give 20% off on a loan or a checking account. But are there some things that if you mention Amanda and you get, something for free, and whatever that would be that you feel you could do to offer an opportunity for a young person to come on board, and what might that be that you can give them, something or, a discount on something if they do say, a discount on a loan rate or something. The idea is that if I like the circle of that because it's not just, hey, I love this brand, look at how great they are, and here's what they've taught me. It can also be about that person being able to say, I can give you, if you use my code, you get a discount. How fun is that? I just really think that has a nice way to build your business instead of it just completely being a brand voice. Now, one of the things they do say is that it peaks about 1,000 followers. That's who most of the brand people are looking for today online. And they're looking for, do they have 1,000 followers on Instagram or on YouTube or Facebook? What do they have? Because that helps to really drive more buzz. And so I really like the idea that it's not having someone with, 20,000 followers or 100,000 or more. What they're finding is the big brand names and the celebrities and all that, they're costly to do business with them because, they are they're using their fame and celebrity to help you build your brand, and that's expensive. But the smaller groups, the ones that are, really trying to build their social networks as well and want to be an influencer, they will give you more time. They'll give you more energy. They'll give you more deliverability. Just a thought. I really like this idea, and really it came from my daughter is doing it for a couple of brands. There was a sunglass brand, bathing suit brand, just amazing to me, and an app that wanted her to do video memes and all out for them. I'm stunned, about what's going on out there now. And here's also, let's go to the big, granddaddy of them all, Amazon. Amazon Spark did it, and they did it as a social network for product discovery. So they call them enthusiasts. And they have a passion or authority for specific product categories. So it might be, camping. It might be, products that you use with your phone, whatever. But then they become a stable of homegrown influencers right there. So who do you know in your membership that can become an influencer? You probably don't know anyone at this point. But if you take some time to start putting it out there that you would like to, you'd be surprised at how many young people may fit this bill in your membership to also help you understand the market and get it out there and what they may be interested in, and allow those people to influence others in your marketplace and in their, their tribes to be able to drive more community for your credit union and more membership. So let's talk a little bit about the whole idea of choosing your social media channels, because it is about time, talent, and budget. And, we're all restricted, right? There's only so much that we can get done. So it means making decisions. The first is, have you devoted personnel time to social media alone? And to me, if it's a one-person marketing department, very hard to do that as one of the 100 things to be done. And you cannot just do social media because social media does not drive sales. What drives sales is getting them to the web page or getting the digital advertising to drive them to the web page to actually get them to apply. So really, it's informing and enriching the community experience to when they are ready that they will think of you. Well, putting personnel time to something that you can't say necessarily drives direct business, some things you can point to see, how many followers and how much activity you have and all that. However, it's tough to say that. And then you have to determine who across your staff has the ability to create the content that is meaningful or to be a spokesperson. Or do you have multiple people do it from different generations so that you're not driving just one person and one voice out there? Because as we saw, if 70 to 75% of the people are actually on some form of social media, they're all different generations, not just a young person and not just a millennial, not just a Gen X, not just a baby boomer. We have all of them. And we do that. And budget, how much money can you devote to creating content like videos as well as the personnel to do them, to write it, to do it? That's a lot. Well, let's think about a couple of options because obviously you have in your in-house marketing department, you can create a staff position to only manage the social media. And I think it can maybe be a dual role. There may be other things, the digital advertising component and that, or it could be the website and social media, trying to really maximize your budget dollars. Larger credit unions have the ability, because they have larger budgets, that they can't afford someone just devoted to doing that. So the issue becomes, though, if you have one staff position, can they also reach out to other people to be able to, gain people from other departments to help? Then you can also think about developing an internship or a project-type-based social media program for different ages and include other employees across the organization. So you could do internships out into the community as far as with local colleges and junior colleges, even might be doing it for high school if you have an in-school program. And on the flip side of that, you have employees across your organization that might enjoy doing a project, maybe a video project, maybe doing a stint for several months to be able to develop some good content for different age groups, different generations. Then you can also outsource to a marketing agency and gain that talent and expertise on a budget that you can afford. Now, still someone has to be involved from the marketing department, even when you outsource. But sometimes it's better because you can gain that talent and expertise easier to get it out there in the best way and to jumpstart it, to build it until you can bring something more in-house or develop other solutions. Because you need to get out there, right? You need to get it done. So those are some options. When you think about money, a staff person to do that could be $35 to $45 per year plus all their benefits and everything else. So very often that's something that social media does not gain someone just for that. They have to do other things at the credit union to be able to maximize the budget afforded to them. So I get it, but okay. And then intern program could be anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 per person, depending on how much you have them do. If it's someone coming in from a local community college, and you're going to pay them a little above minimum wage, $10 an hour or whatever, for them to get experience, you still want to pay them. So if you have them there for several months, it can add up. It could also be just a grant to have someone help you do things, but you got to think about that. And a marketing agency may be $600 a month to $1,000 a month to create content for you and post it, depending if you want them to have it, posted out too. But remembering, these are all costs to be considered. What matches your credit union the best? All right. So with that in mind, now you got to create the success strategy, right? And I really feel it's important that it is really closely held to your brand story. And there are 3 story types I want to talk about, and then I want to talk about the consistency of promoting your social media. All right. So first, there are brand story elements that need to be considered for each one of these. The first, sir, is the signature story. I'm going to talk briefly about the professional story and then the personal story. But really what I'm talking about here is stories are the way your message will gain attention and rise above the clutter. I love this quote. Customers and employees are often not interested in your strategic message, so they tune it out. Strategic message, why we exist and all that. Even when they are exposed to the message, they may think it lacks authenticity and credibility. Additionally, media is cluttered and empowered audiences can easily choose to ignore what they don't find relevant. But when we tell a story, we have an opportunity to engage the imagination of the person and to put themselves in our story. So the signature story. This is when members have done business with you, cite how the experience should be remembered. When you're talking about your brand, how should they feel when they walk out the door? I've always said, especially in cross-selling training when I've done that with teams, is to say, your member should be leaving with a smile on their lips as they go out the door. They are happy to have done business with the credit union, right? So in that imagination, how do I get the person hearing my brand story to have that sense that when they walk out the door, they're going to feel good, secure, fine, happy? What is it that you want them to feel? Also in your signature story, do you have the most outstanding products or service, the most helpful employees, or the easiest to help manage their money? Be clear. What is it that you do to really help them with their lives? And then your credit union's brand story should be consistent for years to come. So show the value through a quick story, and remember that attention spans are short. I have to have it that I understand when I do business with your credit union, how am I going to feel, the emotional part, what are you going to do for me, what solution am I going to have, and that for years to come, I can count on you. Interesting, right? Have you thought about your signature story that way? Now let's talk about a professional story, and this can be in the social media that you do. I mean, yes, you can do the signature story as well. Of course you should. But let's also talk about the professional story, because these are little short ones that you can tell. It can be from an employee, manager, C-level executive, board member that tells a story about how the credit union has helped them as a member or another member, an employee, a volunteer. How did they help through the products and services? And it can even be perhaps a donation situation that the credit union has also this big heart, helping not just to be a financial solution that's great for their members, but because you're also helping others through the community that you serve. So there's, cool little stories that you can have there, or just that you were so happy that someone, that came back. I remember at one of our credit union clients, there was somebody's son, an employee's son, that was injured in Iraq and lost the use of his legs. And they were going to do, and the credit union supported and credit union employees supported, helping him get a home built through Wounded Warriors. It was awesome. I mean, that goes beyond just being the checking account, the auto loan, the home mortgage, right? So that's what I'm talking about, that they actually helped in that sense, but they could also have helped in terms of not only the money, but in the mortgage for the family, loans that were needed to help. There can be all kinds of stories about how you've helped someone. And it tells how the ability of the credit union overall and its people can help in many ways. That's a great video. That's something that, is kind of that tearjerker, that feeling that, oh my gosh, my credit union does these things. I love that idea of trying to bring it home. And here's one other way, which is the personal story. This is the testimonial in nature, where the member does tell the story about how the credit union or its product or service helped solve an issue or made a difference in their life. I love member testimonials. I love them when they're in a simple video done by a phone, because it looks real, and it is real when you do that. I find that all three of these story types are really helpful in patterning out not only your brand story and a professional how you help story, and maybe some financial tips and how you help someone with their credit history, whatever. And then you have the personal story where someone does step forward as, in a way, a review, which you can also get reviews, obviously, in social media. But this, to me, is even more important, is to get them captured on video and in some of your other pieces that you do in social media of how you helped. Now, the final piece of this is great if you have these things, but if you're not promoting them, and to me, that means really traditional marketing stuff. You need to do emails, you need to do direct mail, you need to do online advertising. You need to have all those channels ready to promote why they should be looking at your social media and your videos. Because if you're not promoting it, they're not going to be seeking your credit union out on Facebook or trying to find you on Pinterest or trying to, no. What they're going to be doing is looking at what they see that you do have or that someone has found, and they will follow then and see, right? So your email strategy to targeted demographics is really important. I still like direct mail to making sure that once in a while you show up in the mailbox because not as many people are, and I would rather see it pop in every so often with a really good message about what kind of new web series you have or whatever. And then online advertising, let's direct them right to there. Let's have your ads popping up where you think they may be looking to drive them to not only your social media but to your website for more information. And you need to track everything. And when I say track everything is that you need to track any business that you get. Now, of course, email, you can definitely see how many click-throughs you get to your website. Direct mail, you can tell of the list that you went to. If you go back in your database, you can determine, did you have a lift in business from those people? And also in online advertising, click-throughs, you can do that as well and see the pattern of. And whoever you have targeted, how many new members, how many loans booked, how many accounts were opened, the social media shares, the follows, the visits. Those are also things that have to be tracked all the time to see, because to me, those are ways to then, just direct your course a little bit. It's not something that you just shoot for the moon and get there straight, right? They had to, for anybody going to the moon, they had to keep correcting. That's what we have to do. And the only way we can do it is if we have that information about, who's doing what. So with that, here's the idea from Amazon again. We all know what Amazon has to offer. We know it has like everything. But they didn't evolve into an online retailer without rock-solid email marketing strategy. So this retailer used email and still does. But there was the personalization that they've used, and you have that information in your database. So if you have an email address, you have a name. So you can actually put that in there to make it more personal. You can really keep it consistent, as well as all of your social media buttons everywhere. Have them consistently shown everywhere. There should be a call to action. Do you want to know more? Always put, do you want to know more, and have that available for someone to click through to your website. And also open options. Easily, I can change whatever subscription preferences I have. Do I want to receive things from the credit union all the time? Do I just want promotions? Do I just want key information? So they're very good about that, and the reason I like to obviously highlight Amazon is they are the master. I mean, they have really pushed forward and become, like I said, the granddaddy of them all right now. So when I say, tracking everything as well, they do. But more importantly, what can you track? So these are just some ideas again. In marketing, you have to track everything. And we're really big on that and doing database analysis and all just to make sure we know, are we getting results? So traditional, of course, you've got responses to direct mail, the activity in the branches, overall promotion results when you go back into your system, digital, traffic to your website, clicks from ads. You have e-marketing, open rates and click-through rates, and unsubscribes and bounces. With websites, you've got Google Analytics for page views, browser stats, visit mapping. For social media, you've got watch, follows, how likes, how many click-throughs you get from your post to your unique landing page. You have ways to track things. So make sure you do so that you can continue to adjust when you get all these things put into place for social media. And if you commit to someone or even using an agency or whatever you decide to do, make sure that you're tracking it so that you know how to correct to get even better results. So let me do a quick recap then. We talked about the 3 social media mistakes and how to avoid them. And of course, with that, it was for me, I always feel like it's, the lack of content, and then you've got the lack of voice and the lack of video. Those are things that really need to be, thought process in your strategy. Then you have the keys to choosing your social media channels, and I talked about your time, talent, and budget. So if you're going to be choosing, what kind of time do you have, what kind of talent do you have, what kind of budget do you have? Because you may have to limit to just being on YouTube or just using something for Pinterest or, just picking 1 or 2 channels because of your time, talent, and budget restrictions. And then what is about the success strategy? I talked about the 3 story types, the signature, the professional, and the personal story types that you can use, and that you have to be consistent in promoting that you've got these. You have got to let your members know that you are on these different social media and not just leave it on your website hoping that they'll click through. They're not that interested, really, unless you tell them why they should be interested because you've got something that can help them in their lives today to make it better, to save money, whatever it is, right? So with that, I hope you've gotten some really good ideas. I want to thank you for being here and also realize that we do have some really good, more concrete how-tos on Credit Union Marketing University that you can binge watch, but that also give you that opportunity to really go through all of the ways that you can improve, such as 10 ways to manage social media content, how to make it easy to make social content to go across a bunch of different platforms. What about 5 digital advertising opportunities? What about digital advertising for prospecting to get new members? What about social media branding, the content and advertising that you do? How do you make it really work for you? And the keys to better e-marketing. These are just some of the other webinars that are available right now that you can even binge watch. So you can go right back to Credit Union Marketing University and look at this and see if there's some really good tips to help you manage your social media in an even better way so that you're the most successful in winning in social media. Thank you.